So the joke is, which again isn't a joke because I don't actually know how long it takes from the time I hit the button until we're actually on the air. So I usually say this exact same thing, and by the time I'm done, I'm like, hey, we should be live by now. So hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast. I am Michael, and I'm here tonight with a special show and tell edition of the show where we're going to talk to Dave Chalker, who's the lead rules designer for the new Sentinels of the Multiverse RPG, and he's going to walk us through creating characters, which I believe might be the first time this will be out general to the public, so hopefully this will be exciting for some people to watch. Dave, go ahead and say hello to everybody and introduce yourself in case someone isn't familiar with who you are.
Hello, I'm Dave Chalker. As you said, I'm the lead rules designer for the Sentinel Comics role-playing game, but I work with a great team with Critical-Hits Studios, which kind of grew out of my blog Critical-Hits that we've been running since 2005, and work with Phil Menard and Cam Banks on RPG design stuff, and we've been consulting with the folks of Greater Than Games who own all the Sentinels of the Multiverse stuff. And we've been working on this project for about 4 years, and right now on Kickstarter we have the big old launch for the core rulebook that'll have the character creation stuff that we're going to be going through tonight, as well as all kind of other goodies. So if you haven't checked that out, of course, I encourage you to head over to Kickstarter and take a look.
All right. If you would do me a favor while I'm introducing you, go grab that Kickstarter link and throw it into chat. Or you can't do that. I have to do that. So instead, I will tell you to introduce yourself while I do that.
All right. Well, I'm Michael, also with the RPG Academy. I do editing, recording, actual plays, and convention management for our convention, at a Catacon. And I'm a huge fan of Sentinels of the Multiverse. I think between myself and our gaming friends, we have all the expansions, and I think some of the third-party stuff as well, just to spice it up even more. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure I have a good couple hundred hours in that game. So I'm excited to see it come to my preferred medium, which is RPGs, and getting to step into that comic book world.
Okay, my typing skills leave much to be desired, but I think I found it.
Yes, you have. Michael only has 2 fingers when he forgets that he has an extra 8 fingers, maybe even 9.
All right, I think I got that. All right, so let me get back to here. So again, what we're going to do tonight is we're basically going to walk through how you would create a character of your own if you didn't want to use any of the pre-made famous from the card game characters, which I believe do come in the book. Like if I wanted to play Legacy or Bunker, they're in the core books, correct?
Yes, not every character from every set is going to be in the initial core book release. Part of what we're working towards now are some of the stretch goals that will be some of the supplements. And so there's a core of characters that are in the core rule book, already established. And if you go on the Kickstarter, you can see exactly who that is in one of the updates. But then the more of the stretch goals we knock out and the more supplements that are going to get funded, then the more characters that are going to be out of the box. But as you said, you'll be able to make your own characters from the core rulebook, and even if your favorite character, doesn't come out as quickly as you'd like, you can make your own version using the character creator system.
Excellent. So is there anything else we need to know before we just jump into character creation?
Yeah, just briefly. So there's several methods of doing character creation, and we're going to be going through the primary one, which is what we call the guided method. And the guided method is if you have a very loose idea, or if you have no idea at all, what it does is it kind of walks you through the process from the start of the hero's career before they were a superhero and all the way through to their kind of finishing details, and kind of narrows down your options from, a whole big table worth, and then kind of makes you think like, well, how do these things fit together? What of these smaller options kind of go with the one I'm now envisioning? Now, you can still go through it and kind of ignore some of those randomized steps and just make whatever you want. But, that's if you already kind of have a crystal clear version of what you want to do. Whereas this is, we're kind of going into it more fresh and see what kind of heroes come out at the end.
All right, that works for me. I don't know if any of that bled through. Apparently, my dog just went crazy upstairs. And it's also been raining here for like 3 weeks, so my sump pump will occasionally go off. So if you hear a weird sound, that's my sump pump. Okay, so with with those apologies out of the way, what's the first thing we do?
All right, so you're going to pick up 2d10. You're going to roll this 2d10.
Alrighty, are we looking for individual numbers, totaling them together?
Yeah, so basically I've got, the first step we're going to do is backgrounds. I'm just going to hold up character sheet, without a lot of the details here, just so people know what we're doing. But it's a two-sided character sheet. The back is where most of the kind of rules, the kind of stuff is going to get filled in. But in the front, there's a section for characteristics, and I provided both of you with a fillable version of this character sheet. And each of these characteristics, where it says background, power source, archetype, personality, are the steps we're going to go through.
Okay.
So what we're starting with is background. And so I've got a table in front of me in the chapter of 20 different backgrounds. You just roll 2d10. So your options are the individual one of those dice, whatever they rolled. So just tell me what two numbers you rolled.
All right, I got a 5 and an 8.
5 and an 8. So your options are going to be 5, 8, or you can add any two dice together to also get that option. So I'm going to read you 5, 8, and 13 of the chart, and you tell me which of these is the most appealing.
Okay.
So 5 is unremarkable. Before you were a superhero, you had a pretty ordinary life. 8 is tragic. Something terrible happened to you, and that kind of precipitated you entering the heroic lifestyle.
It'll be 8, but go ahead and tell me what 13 is.
Okay. And then 13 is medical. You were a doctor or in some other related field before you became a hero.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going with tragic.
Okay. So I'm going to flip to that section of my book here. So in the back of the character sheet, there's a column for powers, column for qualities, and then status dice. In the game, whenever you're doing an action, you're always taking one die from each of those columns. And part of what this process is going to do is, as we go through it, we're going to fill in those powers and qualities and what die value they are. So the higher die value they are, up to D12, the more strong, more powerful, more trained it is.
Okay,
right?
Yep.
So under tragic, what it says here is you assign a D10 and a D8 to two options of these qualities that I'm going to read out. Banter is one, close combat, imposing, or any mental quality. And if you look on one of the reference sheets I provided you, there's a list of all the different mental qualities.
Alrighty.
So while you're looking at that, Michael, what were your rolls?
So I got a 1 and a 5.
1 and a 5. I should also say at each of these steps you can do a reroll if you want. Yeah. There. So 1 is upper class.
All right.
5 was unremarkable, and 6 is law enforcement.
All right.
So go ahead and think about which of those kind of grabs you.
Yeah, I think it's got to be upper class, right?
Okay.
Like if you have the opportunity
Yeah, why
to
wouldn't you?
just be rich.
It can come in handy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Money should just be a power.
It kind of is, actually.
All right.
Especially for a character like Wraith, who has lots of money. She actually has a quality die of wealthy CEO that she can just throw money at problems.
She throws money at the enemies and then they fall over.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm sorry, Dave, one more time, could you read me the first options? I chose mental investigation for one, but I need to pick one of the others.
Okay, so banter, close combat, or imposing. Imposing is kind of intimidation. It means people are fearful of you when you want to exert that.
Okay, I'm gonna go with banter.
Okay, so you're gonna put a D10 in one of them, and on your character sheet you'll write, whatever quality in the qualities column at a D8, and then the other one you write the name of with one with a D10, one with a D8.
All right, so I went banter D10, investigation D8.
Great. Now you're going to get an ideals principle. We're going to kind of do ideals last, but what that means is there's a category of principles that kind of drive your character and give them some more kind of role-playing hooks among other more tangible benefits. Also, it's kind of how they get hero points, which is kind of like XP. And just so you have it ready, you're going to want to set aside 2d10 and a d6 for the next step.
I am ready whenever Michael gets caught up.
Okay, so when we look at upper class, you're going to assign a d10 and a d8 to two of these qualities: fitness, persuasion, or any mental quality.
Any mental quality, which are for, let me see the mentals: alertness, conviction, creativity, investigation, and self-discipline. Oh, well, alertness, gotta go the big one.
Sure.
And then self-discipline, right? I think that's a good one. And so what were my numbers again?
You have a d10 and a d8 to spend.
All right. I'm starting to develop some ideas of where I want this to go. And that goes under qualities.
Yep.
All right.
And now if you wanted to ignore fitness and persuasion entirely, like kind of like you are, you can take two mental qualities. Just, it's basically just a list to choose from that happens to include all of those. Just to clarify that.
D10, D6. Got
D10,
it.
D8.
Oh, D10, D8, right?
Yep.
Like follow.
Correct.
Already
undisciplined. This is why it's going to my character.
Playing against type. I like it.
Right. Okay. Do you have those assigned? So go ahead and set aside a D10 and 2D8. And both of you are going to roll it, and we're going to go on to power source at this point in a similar fashion where you roll the dice, and that gives you your different options. One thing to note is, a few points I'll make here. First of all, you can, like before, you can take any of the individual numbers, or you can add together any two dice. You'll see there's 3 dice. You can't add them all together, but you can add any 2 of them together for those selections. Those dice are going to be what you assign towards other stuff in this step. So your mixture of dice is going to kind of divert from each other. The other thing is, we tell people, we try to be very honest about this, that these do not produce quote unquote balanced characters. It is not like a point buy, everything kind of washes out method. We very much wanted to stick to the heart of the Sentinels itself and the comic universe kind of thing, where you can have somebody on the team that has no superpowers at all and is just highly trained, and somebody with godlike powers, but they're both able to contribute, and they both kind of have their own different things going on.
Excellent. All right. So because I think we had different, I had a 6 and 2 D10s, and Michael had a 6 and 2. Okay. So I rolled a 6, 6, and a 7. So I'm looking at 6, 12, or 13.
Or 6, 7, 12, 13, right?
Yeah. Math.
So power source is how you got your powers. What precipitated getting them. So 6 is nature. 7 is relic. So you have an item of power that provides you your abilities. 12 is an artificial being. You were created somehow, and that's, those powers and abilities are inherent to you. And 13 is cursed. A terrible curse is responsible for you developing abilities.
I mean, I think we all know where I'm going with this one, right?
Cursed,
yeah.
Cursed. So, you said you rolled 2d10 and a d6 to get here, right?
Correct.
So, you're going to assign those 3 dice, similar to what you did in the previous step with qualities, into these kinds of powers. So these are all options for you. Signature weaponry, which is, a very specific weapon that is, very important to you. Like Thor's hammer would be a signature weapon, for instance. Athletic powers. So those will be on that sheet that I gave you. Anything from the athletic column. Elemental/energy powers. Materials powers, which tend to be things like metal, stone, plants, that kind of thing. Control over those things. or self-control powers, which are things that allow you to change yourself.
All right, I'm going to think over that a little bit and look at that reference sheet if you want to get Michael caught up.
Yep, exactly. So what are the other roles we have to work with here?
So you told me, or I think it is 2 die 10 and a die 6, right? Is it the same? Is it the same for me?
No, it's going to be different.
All right, what do we got?
Upper class was a D10 and 2D8.
All right.
So go ahead and roll those.
So the die 10 is a 7, and the 2 die 8s are a 4 and an 8.
So
19 altogether, or
so you can only add 2 of them together.
Oh, gotcha.
So the 4 is experimentation. You were experimented upon to get your powers. 7 was relic. What were your other numbers?
8.
8 is powered suit. You have a mech suit or something similar
Mm-hmm.
to use to do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
11, 4 and 7, supernatural. Some otherworldly thing infused you and is responsible for your powers.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a 7 and an 8, right? So 15?
Yeah.
15 is genius. You use your mighty intellect in order to use your powers.
Well, I'm trying to go opposite of myself, so I'll probably stay away from that one. No, so I think I'm gonna go powered suit, right? Nothing. We've got an Anthem Warframe Tony Stark feel going so far.
So there is actually a power called Power Suit.
Yeah.
So one of those dice that you rolled, the 10 or the 2d8s, one of those you're going to put in Power Suit under your powers column.
All right.
And if you want it to be a fairly defining Power Suit, then with, very flexible, you probably want to put your 10-sider in that. But if it's more of not quite all that you are and other aspects of it, less of the utility aspects and more other things, then you could just put a D8 in that and use the other 2 dice for some of these other powers that I'm going to say. I
think we got to go. We got to go D10. We know it's in there.
Sounds good. So I'm going to rattle off some power options here. So we've got awareness, which for a power suit would be like kind of sensor type stuff. Cold, fire, electricity, nuclear, elasticity, if you've got a stretchy suit, part detachment, if you've got, say, rocket punch or something, lightning calculator, do math very fast, signature vehicle, which, just like signature weaponry, that's a vehicle that's very particular to a character, like, say, a magic surfboard or a flaming motorcycle or something like that. Signature weaponry, any athletic power, and any mobility power.
All right.
And you've got 2 D8s to work with left over because you spent your D10, and so you can pick 2 of those.
So elastic, because it just sounds great, and I don't believe that I've seen a super suit do elasticity.
It stretches.
Yeah.
Got like the extendable robot arms.
Yeah, you get like a like it forces molecular control on your body or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sweet.
So elastic, and then I will think about that. I'm going to look at the athletic abilities, and then I'm going to decide.
Sounds good.
All right, Dave. So I'm looking at the self-control powers, and there's an intangibility ability. There's also density control. So with density control, would I be able to go intangible, or are they separate?
They're separate. Density control is controlling the density of others, if I remember correctly. I can look it up here, but intangibility is you just being able to pass through things. Actually, I think density control, no, it's a self-control power. It lets you make yourself more dense, but not less dense per se.
I certainly feel more dense when I'm around Michael, so I don't know if you want just making me look bad, man.
All right, so I'm going to go with intangibility for my D10. Signature weapon that I haven't defined yet is my other D10, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want my third to be. Now, it can be another self-control power, or
it can.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
What's intangibility do? Like you can
phase, kitty pride, or vision type of thing.
Yeah.
pass through things. Yep.
Nice. Who needs walls?
So what about absorption?
Absorption, good.
Allowing you to absorb particular kinds of energy or other things that come in. Some of more of the details we'll get to, but if you put a D6, it means it's not particularly strong, but it means you can do it, right?
Okay.
Any die size in these powers, is like, this is a thing your character can do.
Okay.
Just don't go with clothes.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna take invisibility, so that way I can basically go through things and be invisible, which kind of ties into my investigator. I see my character sneaking into places unseen, getting the information, and getting out.
Yep. Sounds good to me. So, if you've got those noted on powers, so everyone has sets of abilities, and abilities are kind of practice ways that you've used your powers that make them perform better because they're kind of like practiced moves that you can do with these powers. And on the sheets, so we call this the gyro system for green, yellow, red, and out gyro. And you have a certain status based on how your health is doing and how bad the scene has gotten. So as you get more hurt or as things kind of go haywire, you get access to more and more abilities from your sheet.
Which I think is very cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So in each of these zones, we're going to be adding abilities, and we're actually going to start with some yellow abilities from Cursed. So for Cursed specifically, it says you're going to get 2 yellow abilities from a list I'll read you, and they're each going to use a different one of your power dice. So one option is Costly Strength, which is a boost that you can do to a number of allies. So a boost is one of the basic actions in the game that's, provides a bonus to the next action that you do. So you do a big boost to all your nearby allies for their next action, but you also hinder yourself and take a penalty to your next action. So that's Costly Strength. There's Attunement, and when you would take damage from a particular energy or element type, instead of taking the damage, you can recover that much health. And then finally, there's Cursed Resolve, which you can boost yourself using one of your powers, and then you can either remove a penalty that's on yourself that maybe a bad guy put there, or recover some health. So those would be the 3 options. Now, with all these abilities, these are just kind of placeholder names, and to just tell you, if we were finishing up the characters at the end, you'd write out all the details of how they work in the game. But also, you would rename them to your character at the end of the process.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll be thinking over those while you help Michael.
Yep.
All right, so I had to decide between the very core elements of agility, speed, strength, and vitality, and I went with strength. I went with
super
strength.
Suit that can stretch, and also it's got a bit of a buff to it as well.
I feel like I'm building like a very wealthy Stretch Armstrong.
Stretch, rich, strong, something like that. Yeah,
it's in there.
Yeah, it's around there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find it before the name will be in there before the end.
We'll figure it out by the end.
Yeah.
So likewise, you're going to get 2 yellow abilities that are each going to key off a different one of your power dice. So the first option is Onboard Upgrade, which boosts yourself, and it's a persistent boost, which means normally you get a bonus for your next action and then it goes away. This is actually an upgrade that you can do that will last for the rest of the scene.
This is like the stuff is going sideways, and when we need to burn some juice on the machine.
It's more, hey, I've got this useful little invention that's part of my suit that I'm going to deploy right now, and then like I've got the Electro Fist that's going to give me a bonus when I start punching things later.
Yeah, the standard Stretch Armstrong tactics are not working, and I need to use some tricks up the sleeve. I like that.
Exactly. Yep. So onboard upgrade's one option. Energy Converter is when you take a certain energy type of damage, then you can take that damage and convert it into a boost. Mm-hmm. So you still take the damage, but then you get a bonus on your next action, possibly to attack, whatever's zapped you within the first place. And then there's Explosive Attack, which attacks up to 3 different targets and using your different kinds of dice. But if you roll doubles, then there's some kind of collateral damage, and either you'll take damage or there'll be some kind of story twist that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. I like onboard upgrade and explosive attack. And you know what I just realized is it might be like a Venom-esque character.
So your
Right?
super suit is more
Yeah.
maybe more biological.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or
so onboard upgrade and explosive attack. Where do I want to put those on this very colorful?
So those are going to go
character
in your yellow zone abilities. The way down the sheet on the back.
There it is. Got it.
And each of these different lines, you'll say onboard upgrade on one, and then you'll pick one of your powers that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just write it there, and then explosive attack on the next line with whatever other power goes with that.
Got it. I like that there's actually enough space to write on this. Which, if you wanna show chat and everything, where, I mean, I think we can see it pretty well on there. If we can see how like big the font is.
Yeah, and if you want to share on your screens the character sheets you've got so far, like the one that you filled in, if you want to do like a screen share of that, that's fine with me.
All right.
Alrighty. So for myself, I ended up taking attunement, and I paired that with my intangibility, and then cursed resolve, and I tied that to my signature weapon.
Sounds good. And from this, you're going to get a green ability. One is double-edged luck, which says whenever you roll one or more of your dice rolls a 1, you can re-roll it once. So it's kind of protection for, total botching. And the other one is called extremes, where whenever you roll a 1 on a die, it becomes a 0, and whenever you roll the max value of a die, it goes up by 1. So your very lowest roll and your very highest roll are both pushed 1 in those directions.
All right, and I get one of those?
You get one of those.
Okay, I'll go with extremes.
Okay. So then you put that under your green abilities. So most of the other ones that you've taken are either actions, they're things you do on your turn, or they're reactions, you do it in response to something else. These are inherents, which means they're just always kind of on. But yeah, one of those goes into your green ability section.
All right, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to share my screen while you're talking to Michael.
Okay, and just while I'm looking at the entry, you're going to want to set aside a D12 and a D6 for the next step.
Him or me too?
Just him.
All right. And then the name of the ability would be explosive attack, right?
Right. And At the end, we'll rename them to something very specific to the character.
Gotcha.
But this is just a placeholder name, so you can go back and reference what it is for all the game text.
Got it. There it is.
There we go.
On the screen.
So I'll just kind of fill in a few things and let people see as we go. I'm not all of these are completely filled in yet, of course. So my background was curse, or was that power source?
Although it's not shown on Twitch.
There may just be a delay because it should be, but we'll see. Nope, apparently they can't see. All right.
Tragic was the background.
Gotcha.
Right, there's a very simple way to do this.
Yeah, technology fail.
Right? And that is to look at my screen as I was. So we can see the character sheet. I know this is very Blair Witch Project. But that's a movie we all remember. If you're 30 or above. So everything, like, I just want to show you, like, I know a lot of character sheets can get really small with the writing, and this is like standard writing size.
If anyone, I know at Gen Con I picked up the starter kit. It has character sheets in it, so you can kind of see the filled out version as what everything would look like once we're done as well.
Yep. Yep. 6 characters in the starter kit. Okay, so for powered suit, so you've taken the yellow abilities. You're going to get 1 green ability.
So, Dave, sorry, one quick question. Someone was asking, is that form fillable character sheet something that people will be able to access, or is it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, it'll be downloadable. It's not out there right now because the character creation stuff isn't out there right now, but we'll definitely be providing it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, and what were you saying?
So for powered suit, we've got the 2 yellow abilities, and so there's going to be 1 green ability from this list. Either diagnostic subroutine, which whenever you would change your zone due to your health, so whenever you go from like green to yellow because you've taken damage, or yellow to red, you can remove a penalty that's on you. So you can kind of shake off some ongoing bad effect, or just flat out damage reduction because your powered suit provides you with some modicum of protection that reduces damage. That the amount of damage it reduces goes up as you go into different zones. So Michael, which of those sounds?
Let me write them down and go through them so I can decide.
That's what I've been trying to do, is type them on the sheet and
type them up, and then like, I mean, I'm making this like as a chess move.
Diagnostic subroutine to remove penalties on yourself when you get damaged, or damage reduction, which kind of does what it says.
I think you got to go damage reduction, right?
Yep, makes sense to me.
Yeah, and that's the green ability.
That's a green ability. Yep.
All right, golden.
And you're going to want to set aside a D10 and 2D6 for archetype selection, which is the next step.
D10, 2d6. All right.
And whenever you're ready, for both of you, we will move on to archetypes.
I think you told me I needed a D12 and a D6.
Yep.
All right, I've rolled those. Both of them are 4s.
Okay. So again, if neither of these sound good to you, you can re-roll them. Especially with doubles, it kind of cuts down on your options. 4 is marksman, and 8 is flyer.
Yeah, none of those really sing to me just yet. Do you mind like maybe going up and down? So give me what the 3 and the 5 would also be.
The 3 is physical powerhouse. 5 is blaster.
No,
I'm still thinking on that. If you want to go to Michael, maybe one of his options will sing.
I feel like you got something in your mind.
So go ahead and you rolled the
D10 to 2d6, right?
Yep.
Let me do that. Numbers are 4, a 2, and a 2. I don't think I've rolled well at all this game. I'm glad we're not in the game yet.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter here. It's when you actually get into a fight.
Yeah.
And then you start to curse the dice. 2, 4, 4, you said?
Yeah, 4, 2, 2, but yeah. For the D10, and then
4, 2, 2.
2d6 is 2, 2.
So shadow is number 2.
Ooh.
4 is marksman, and 6 is close quarters combatant.
There it is. We got it. Shadow, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
So someone in chat missed the archetypes. Can you just kind of go over them, like all the? Well, how many of them are there options? I don't want to go through.
There's 20 on each of these tables, so not necessarily going to go over all of them,
Sure.
but just some of the options.
Have you done the math for like how many iterations of a different character you could make?
No, because as you've seen, each of these has like sub options as well. So we're just going to go with there's lots of ways to make characters.
Much easier math.
Yeah, exactly.
And yes, I went with Shadow.
Okay, so we will go to Shadow here.
In close quarters, I'm sorry, this was a green or?
This is your archetype, and then we'll give you some other stuff as part of it.
That is back under characteristics. Got it.
Okay, so let's go back to Shadow, because that's the first one here. So you had a D12 and a D6, right?
Correct.
So you're going to assign one of those dice to Stealth, which is a quality. So you either put your D12 in Stealth or a D6 in Stealth. If you already had Stealth, then you could either replace it and drop the die down or just skip this step.
All right, I want to go with Stealth there.
Okay, so for 12-sider. Okay, then you have a D6 to put into one of these powers or qualities. Invisibility, intangibility, which I believe you already have. Signature weaponry, any physical quality, or any athletic power.
All right, let me look over those for a second.
Okay. And then close quarters combatants.
You know it.
All right. So assign one of the dice you rolled to the close combat quality, which I don't believe you already have. So choose one of those dice that you rolled for the step and add close combat as one of your qualities.
Gotcha. And what are for my CQB dice? What are they? Or the die? Oh, you mean of the D10 and the 2d6?
Yes, the dice you rolled to get to the step. Yep.
Got it. We're gonna go die 10.
Okay. And then you're gonna put one of those leftover dice into signature weaponry, power, any athletic power, any mobility power, or any technological power.
Technological. One more time.
Athletic powers, mobility powers, technological powers, signature weaponry.
And most of those are on that cheat sheet he sent us.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And so I'm sorry. So I have a D6 left, and you said I could put those into any athletic powers and any mobility powers?
Physical qualities or athletic powers.
Physical qualities. Okay. I'm not sure. Oh, is that like acrobatics, close combat?
Yep.
Okay.
It should be on that list as well.
All right. So as someone who can turn invisible and can phase through objects, I already have stealth. I think it may be close combat. I think that would be what I'd go with, because in my mind, my signature weapon is going to be like a sword or something. It's not going to be a ranged weapon.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. And because signature weaponry is a power and close combat is a quality, you would frequently have them in the same dice pool.
Okay. All right, and I have that at D6, and I think I've done all the options I have so far.
Okay, so you're going to get 2 green abilities from this list. The first one is Shadowy Figure, which allows you to attack with a specific power quality you choose. And then you also defend using one of the dice against all attacks against you, because it's like you're attacking but also darting through the shadows, so you're harder to pin down. So that's Shadowy Figure. Untouchable, which is a reaction that reduces damage to you and gets better as you go up in green, yellow, red zones. So that's Untouchable. And then there's also Sabotage, which you can attack using one of your powers or qualities, and then you also get to hinder the thing you're attacking or maneuver in the scene to somewhere else, or get rid of a bonus that somebody else has that you could theoretically sabotage.
Okay, I like Untouchable, but I think I'm going to go with Sabotage.
Oh, you get 2 of them, so you can take both.
Perfect. Then I'll get Untouchable and Sabotage.
Yep. And then you will also get 1 more yellow ability, one of which is Overcome from the Darkness. So it's an attack or overcome. So attacking is probably self-evident, but overcome is your all-purpose defeat a challenge, make a skill check kind of action. So this is an attack or overcome that also boosts yourself because you're doing it from an advantageous position. So that's Overcome from the Darkness. And then Smoke Bombs allows you, when you or an ally takes damage, to defend that ally by rolling a single die.
Okay, I'm going to go with Overcome from the Darkness.
Okay, and that goes in your yellow. At the end, you're going to get an expertise principle, which again, we'll choose exactly what that is near the end. And you're going to be rolling 2d10 for personality selection, but spoiler alert, everyone rolls 2d10 for personality selection. So.
All right. So one question: when I got my original green and yellow powers, they were connected to. So like attunement, for example, is attached to intangibility.
Yep.
And Curse Resolve was attached to signature weapon. Is Overcome from the Darkness attached to something?
Yes, you'd also pick a power quality for it to go with.
Okay, I get to choose. Okay, perfect. I was just making sure. Thank you.
Yep, and because these are in different steps, you can repeat a power quality you already have an ability for. You have to be unique within the same step, but you don't have to diversify between steps.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so going back to our close quarters combatants.
All right, so I like this sort of, my suit makes me a bit amorphous thing, so I went with flight and swim, two mobilities, and
perfect.
Just can sort of exist anywhere.
Yep, can stretch anywhere and
right, yeah,
go wherever you want. All right, so you've assigned all your dice to powers, and now you're going to get some green and yellow abilities from this. It's actually a fairly big list here in close quarters combatants.
So, and we can expedite a little. I feel like you know where my head's at. If you want to pull out a couple.
I'll go through it. It's pretty quick. I mean, hopefully these will all make sense. So, defensive strike is defends you and attacks at the same time. It's a slightly weaker attack, but you do get some defense as part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive strike is just a powerful attack. Flexible stance lets you do any two basic actions, like attack and defend, but they're both using your lowest rolling die. So you're doing two things at once, but neither of them is as effective as if you were just doing the one. Throw minion. This probably will be up your alley. You attack a minion, so minion are like single die move kind of things that you can toss around. This allows you to attack one, and whatever it rolls, then you can also have attack another target. So you pick up the minion, attack it, and also attack something else. There's also precise strike, which lets you ignore any defenses or penalties on the attack. It's a very accurate attack. And then dual strike allows you to attack two different targets with the same roll.
Got it. So I like the do two things at once, and I like the piercing.
Okay. So you're actually getting 3 of these a green and 1 of them a yellow.
Okay.
So ultimately you're getting 4 out of these.
So three green?
Yep.
And 1 yellow.
Yep.
So what is the do two things?
Do two things is flexible stance.
Flexible stance. All right. And then piercing.
Precise strike.
Precise strike. And you got to go with throw minion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people want to talk about utility. That's utility. And then the offensive strike as the yellow.
Yep, that makes sense. So you have a more powerful attack when you get into yellow.
Yeah.
Before then, you're very flexible.
Yeah.
Sounds good. You will get a responsibility principle when we get to principles, and you're going to roll 2d10 for your personality selection.
I see this. I'm getting power. I'm also getting responsibility.
It's a thing that happens.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So for my 2d10, I rolled a 3 and an 8.
Okay. So on the personality chart, and these are a little more flexible, but they also give you your status dice, which is the other part of your dice pool.
Okay.
So 3 is impulsive, 8 is fast talking, and 11 is stoic.
I think I'm building towards stoic with this character.
Okay. So for your green, yellow, and red dice next to your powers, so your green is a d6, your yellow is a d8, and your red is a d10. Which is kind of the standard array of, as things get more serious, you get a little more bumped up.
Got it. And then someone had asked, just to clarify, that the green and yellow abilities all come from the same pool. I think that earlier they were defined. It was only this new one that Michael was able to pick, right?
Yeah, the process will tell you where to fill in these specific things. So there's not one master list; they're all just with these different entries.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and what are the other roles for personality?
That's you, Michael. 2d10.
I got a 5 and a 10. I finally rolled well.
5 is sarcastic, 10
Oof.
is alluring, and 15 is jovial.
I mean, yeah, sarcastic.
Sarcastic.
I had to put at least some element of myself in there.
I think you are building a sarcastic character, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Rich, sarcastic. It's like wine and cheese.
So you're actually going to have a D8 for each of them. D8 green, D8 yellow, D8 red.
Yeah. All right. The red zone. We haven't gotten into the red zone yet.
No, and actually we're, because that's something that would be more of a finishing touch, and it's better to have the access to the book for, because we probably won't really go into that, but I can explain briefly how it works.
All right.
And again, in case people missed that earlier, you start off, assuming most of the time you're going to start off in the green zone, and then as the scene progresses, the scene can move you into the next zones like yellow and red, or you personally taking damage can cause you to go to yellow or red. And as you do that, you gain new and more powerful ability. I don't know if I'm more powerful, but you gain new abilities. But usually the yellow and red have a chance they can also hurt you. Some of the die roll combinations can cause you to hurt yourself. So it's like more power, but more risk.
Yeah, and generally they are more powerful the closer you get up to red, but yeah, sometimes they come with risk, and also things are probably kind of going off the rails and you need the help.
Nice. And then as a throwback to the card game, if your character is out, you still have an ability that you can do that's like a boost or a hindrance. So you still have a mechanical effect each round, even though you're out.
Yep. So in fact, we are going to get that ability from your personality.
Okay.
So for Stoic, your out ability is that you can defend an ally by rolling a single die of a quality of your choice. So it means even while you're out, something about you lets your allies take less damage from things. So it might be, even while you're not fully in the fight, you're still able to provide your intangibility as some kind of effect for others.
Okay.
Just the risk of disappointing you.
I can't let you down.
And sarcastic, your out ability is that you hinder an opponent by rolling a single quality die.
All right. Because
they are still kind of rattled by your sarcastic remarks, or just kind of thinking about that sick burn from earlier.
I like it. You knock them off their game a little bit.
Yep. Even though they might have beat you to heck, still your words are going to stay with them.
Yeah.
So you both at this point would get a D8 quality of your choice that you make up that is specific to your character. Now, in general, that can come from kind of like if you have a civilian life, if you have something that's important to that. The characters in the starter kit has some examples, like I said, Wraith is wealthy CEO is her unique quality, whereas Legacy is America's finest. And it's kind of your kind of go-to all-encompassing one thing where if nothing else makes sense in the qualities, at least you have this other thing to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to do that right now, but that would be part of this process, because hopefully at this point your characters kind of come together. You have a decent idea of who they are.
I think so.
Go for it. Did you have your line?
I don't have a line yet. I have a like an identity is a reverie that basically every time I use my powers, I have to lose a memory, which is where the tragedy came in. I forgot my family. So I'm constantly losing more of myself, but I'm coming stronger. But
you're also kind of actually fading away from the world, and that's why you can pass through things.
right, I'm drifting away.
Yep, makes sense.
We're so similar. I was like, I'm losing my humanity to this biological element that's attached to me.
Nice. So your symbiote is taking over.
Yeah. Oh, and like I want it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're willing to give that power, but you might regret it later.
Right? Like, who doesn't want to shut their emotions and humanity off sometimes? Come on, it draws you in.
Nice.
I am really excited about this. Is we're consummate gamers, right? We game all the time. I am interested in this green, yellow, red zone and how I could really sink my teeth into it. Because I've always thought I like the character that's like, very calm, cool, collected, but then sort of rages out as things hit the fan. Like you
Right.
can think of like Beast or any of the sort of ragers. He's a scientist, but then sometimes he's definitely not a scientist. And I'm interested in making like a character that really uses this green, yellow, red zone to that fullest effect, that you can add some depth of mechanical play to the character with the green, yellow, red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and this may be getting too much into the weeds, but and I know Michael knows the card game much better than me. I play it. I have the giant collector's box, but he's much more versed in it. But I imagine there's probably some ability you have where you can give yourself damage on purpose to force yourself into another zone.
Yeah, I mean there's part of the game as a whole is there are these twists. So when you do overcome actions and aren't rolling well, it's like you succeed, but with a twist. There's some kind of complication. And so one of the core things is that if you really want to use one of your abilities that's outside of your current zone, you can take a twist to still use it. The idea in general is that, like your heroes, you've been around, you don't bring out all the big guns and give it all that you've got against, like, the group of bank robbers you're going to deal with, with no problem anyway. But if things get worse and worse, you start to bring more and more to bear. And that's kind of what the system works to emulate.
All right.
But there are always options. Part of the reason this came about, just speaking to the card game for a minute,
sure,
is at the beginning of the game, the card game, you've got your hero deck, you've got a random set of cards, you've got nothing in front of you, and then as you play more and more cards, you get more and more powerful, and you kind of build up. But it doesn't necessarily make sense in a role-playing game to be like, oh, I just randomly thought of this thing that I can do, like every single time. So this is kind of our attempt to emulate that, where, the more serious things get, the more resources you have to bring to bear. And, it kind of maps to that idea.
All right. And then for anyone who's listening, again, just to kind of touch on the game, and again, you're the expert. I just read a couple of the cheat sheets, so feel free to correct me or just take over. But generally speaking, when you're in the game, your character wants to do something. I know the example in the starter kit is Legacy is fighting a dinosaur on a bridge. So Legacy says, I'm going to go distract the dinosaur. You get up to 3, or you get 3 dice. One from your quality, one from your power, and one, where does the other one come from?
Your status.
Your status. Right, red, yellow, green. You roll those, and then depending on what you're doing, you're going to take the middle dice, whatever the middle number of the 3 numbers rolled are. In some cases, you might take the highest, you might take the lowest, you might add them together, but generally speaking, it's the middle die for most things, right?
Yeah, your basic action is always the middle die. Actually, if you want to take an example, if you want to pull up either of your character sheets, I don't know if we figured out how to display them or anything, but you can actually do a sample action with one of them at this point, because you're 90% done with the actual character generation process.
All right, Michael, if you don't mind, since you've already shown that you have the ability to turn your camera around and show your screen.
So I have a whole bunch of stuff written on here. That is all of my abilities, damage reduction, flexible stance. Now, I think I put them in the right spot.
Yeah, and again, no big deal for this.
Yeah.
If you want to look up at the top sections there, your quality, power quality.
Yep,
there.
And
these.
Yep.
Got it.
So I think you had D8s for all of your status dice, so that column there that says status dice, you just put in a D8, D8, D8.
Yes. For all of the qualities.
I know. Also for
Just to the
all
right
of
of no,
where it
just
says green, yellow, red,
Oh.
right to the right of the powers.
Gotcha. That's what it was for.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
so when you do something, you're going to take one from power, one from quality, and one from whatever status you're in,
I get it.
and then you'll roll
Right.
a 3.
It's like it makes sense.
Let's see. You've got like a D8 in strength, right?
I do.
Okay. So let's say you were just wanting to punch a bank robber, right? So say, okay, strength is the power that makes the most sense here.
Mhm.
You grab a D8 for that. You have close combats as one of your qualities.
Mhm.
And you take whatever die that is, and then, for you it doesn't matter because you stay cool no matter what, but say it's in the green zone, so you take a D8 for that,
Mhm.
and you'd roll those 3 dice and then look at whatever value is rolling in the middle.
So I would take strength and then the ability.
It's a quality, a power, and your status.
Yeah. So you're right where you're at now. Those 3 are the ones that you would take.
Right.
If
So
if you're just going to punch a bad guy in the face.
Right. So strength, CQB, and then let's say I want to make sure I hit this guy, right, not that hard. So would that be precise? Because I want to bypass armor and then.
So what those are with the abilities, so you're always assembling 3-die pool from that top section of that character sheet.
Gotcha.
What these abilities do is let you
modify the roll.
Yeah, okay, so influence. So I'm green, we're a die 8, it's CQB, it's a die 10, it's strength, it's a die 8. So 2 die 8 plus 1 die 10.
Yep, and you'd roll those 3 dice, and say if you're using your precise strike ability, then you'd roll those 3 dice, you'd still, because of the description of the ability says you still use the mid die, the middle rolling the dice, but the extra benefit is they can't take any kind of defense or anything
Gotcha.
against it.
I see.
And then, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then, again, from what I understand is, like, let's say the middle result was a 7. You would do 7 points of damage to what you're hitting. If it's a minion, it would roll a save, and if it gets better than 7, it's fine. If it gets less, it's gone. And if it's not a minion, then
it just takes damage.
It just takes damage. Now, someone had asked, where do we get our hit points from? There's a place for that.
Yes. So there's a thing in the book where you add up several parts of your character in order to get these health ranges that tell you how you're in the green, the yellow, and the red. There's a whole chart here. You look at it's a combination of a fixed value plus your red status die, and then one of your powers or qualities that is related to what your health would be, like a athletic power or a mental quality, like something that kind of keep you together. And then you can either roll a d8 and add it on, or you can say, I don't want to risk rolling poorly on this and just take a 4 on top of it. And then that would give you a total health, your maximum health. And then there's a chart in here that says this is the range that goes in the green, this is the range in the yellow, and this is the range in the red.
Okay. Very, very cool. So again, just a reminder, because we've had a couple people who jumped into the stream. Is the starter kit still available for sale anywhere?
Yep. Yeah, it should be in all stores and everything.
Yeah, so I picked mine up at Gen Con. It comes with some pre-made characters as well as 6 single-issue adventures that you can play through. First 2 are in linear, then the next 3 are kind of open to different group preference, and then wraps up with a final one. So if you're interested in this game and you want to kind of play it like right now, you can get this, and it's got everything you need to start playing right away with the characters that come with it. The Kickstarter is going on right now. I think the last update was you hit 200K.
Yep.
So we're working towards the next stretch goal, which is a For Everybody adventure. Is that at 250, I believe?
Yeah, I believe so.
And then the next one after that is another add-on book for additional characters. So that's really, so far, all the stretch goal add-ons have been like portfolios of additional characters, good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, well, actually, the 300K one is kind of a big deal one because it adds in all of the kind of more gritty street level characters, which is the Team Darkwatch, and it's also kind of more street level settings. So I'm not going to say it's different rules, but it's kind of more advice there. So it's a combination of more characters, more environments, more villains, more ways to build characters, and more adventures. Like it'll be like a real source book.
Okay.
That'll cover this setting as a whole.
All right. And when does the Kickstarter end?
I believe it's February 22nd or so.
Okay.
Double check that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's in a few weeks, and as I said,
14 days to go.
14 days to go.
Yep. I have already backed it. It's somewhere in the mid tier. I get all the cool stuff, but I don't have like the crazy high levels.
Right.
So that's what I would be looking at doing. So it's 9:30. We were going to end close to here. Is there anything that we didn't cover, or you just want to like talk quickly about, or are you open to a couple questions if we have any?
I'm open to questions, but also if you want to look at principles really quick.
Sure, of course. Yes, let's do that.
So.
And chat while he's doing that. Any questions that you have for him? This is the lead rules designer, so
I know a thing or two.
He's not a rules lawyer. He just is the guy who did it.
I mean, I can be a rules lawyer too, but
yeah. Did you pass the bar? That was.
Well, I went to a bar, but
so you passed one, but not the second one.
Yeah.
So I know one of you had responsibility principles as one of your principles. And those include things like principle of business, you own a small business, principle of the debtor, you're in debt. And again, these are role-playing driven. They all give you some kind of benefits, even if they sound more negative than positive. Principle of the detective, probably for the shadow character might make sense. So let's drill into that one real quick, just to go over what a principle gives you.
Okay.
So it says during role-playing, you can always tell when an important piece of information is being left out or obscured, but you might not know exactly what it is. So the during role-playing parts, these principles always give you something that is true about your character. You don't even have to roll. You can just say, this is something about me that is not going to be negated because it is one of my core driving principles. It gives you another ability that relates to an overcome. That is basically, if you're doing an overcome in your wheelhouse, you're going to use your max die. So principle of detective is you're overcoming to learn some hidden information, and you would use your max die for that. So when you're doing your detective thing, and it really encourages people to play within the spirit of your character. Some people are like worried that it's min-maxing, but this is really how superheroes work, right? Like Batman is always using his detective for a lot of things. Cold-based characters, solution to just about everything is to use cold on it. So we really try to play that up. And then each principle gives you 2 suggestions for twists. They're kind of open-ended questions. That would be something you put on the front of the character sheet. So the minor twist is, what important clue did you miss? So if a twist does come up as part of your character, these are, the GM can always say, here's the twist that I'm going to give you, or something to relate to what's going on. But if you want ideas, you can always go to these questions. So you might say, well, I got the thing I was looking for, but also I missed the fact that, I just tripped the explosives. That would be an important clue that you missed. And then the major twist, if you really botch a roll but still need to succeed, what major secret was just revealed that you would rather have stayed hidden? So these are other things that can also, they impact the larger course of the story for your character as part of what you're doing.
So we make things more interesting when we don't do as well on the dice as we would like.
Exactly. Or, twists can come up in other ways. Like there's some of the abilities that say you take a twist, or if you need to stretch yourself to do, we have what's called risky actions, because you're not just confined to, the abilities that are on your sheet. If you want to do some other thing, you can do it, but it tends to come with a twist. And so these are, something that goes with it that drives the stories in interesting directions.
Right, like Chad had said, like the Flash's solution to something is to always just be fast.
Run fast.
Right. Yeah.
But it's
principle of speed is one of the principles.
Yeah.
It's pretty classic comic book where you try to use your power in a way you've never done before. That might be a risky maneuver. It's like, well, normally I do this. Can I do this thing to make this other thing happen? Sure, it's risky. Now, if you do that once, is there any sort of like, well, I've already done that once, or is it like fresh every time?
It's fresh every time. If you find yourself doing it, all the time, what you might want to do, there's it's not really leveling, but there are ways to tweak your characters after every few issues. And so you might actually say, well, I've done this all the time. I'm actually going to trade out one of my abilities for an ability that kind of represents this, because it is something I've now practiced, but to the exclusion of this other thing that I really don't care about anymore.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the leveling, because from what I've read through, there really isn't a leveling system, but you gain hero points throughout the course of the game, and those hero points can be used to modify your abilities or to give you floating bonuses.
Right.
But there really isn't a I can raise a D8 to a D10 at some point type of a thing.
Right. So there's going to be a couple ways in the core book that you sort of progress. Hero points are one that are just kind of for, like, from issue to issue. They kind of just roll over. Every 6 issues is put into what we call a collection, like a trade paperback, takes all the back issues that you had and does it into one. And that lets you call back on those issues for some kind of like modification on your dice or whatnot. And you can collect those, which does up your power, but it's not a straight like D6 goes to a D8, but you can also swap things around as part of that process, or as I said, swap out abilities for other ones, swap principles. If like, okay, I don't really do the speed thing anymore. Instead, I'm more about this cool gun I found or whatever, adjust your character that way. And you can always just kind of go through the character process and rebuild your character to say, well, my powers have changed such that, I don't really think of myself as a shadow character anymore. I'm now, a blaster or whatever. And you can rebuild your character that way while still staying the same character.
That's another one of the comic book elements I really appreciated it, and you touched on it, that after each session, everyone kind of collectively titles the issue of the comic you just played through, and you keep a running tally until you get to 6, and then you take those 6 and you put them into that volume or collection. And then you start over again. So on your 7th session, you're going to have 1 collection and now 1 new issue. On your 13th game, you're going to have 2 collections, which I think, again, it's just a cool, if you like comic books and that's why you're playing this game. I like those little elements, how they throw those in there. So whoever came up with that, good job.
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't see any specific questions coming through chat. So one more time, because there's a little bit of a delay. If anyone has any questions for Dave, let us know in chat. While we're waiting for that, Dave, one more time, where can people find you? Where do you want them to go to check out the stuff?
The best place right now, obviously, is we'd love to have everybody check out the Kickstarter. As we said, we're funded and we're working on stretch goals. We really would love to get to some of the higher supplements that, we really, especially something like Supers, where there's been a lot of games in the genre, some of which we've worked on before. When you're entering into the market, you're not sure how well it's going to be, and there's still demand for new Supers games and stuff. So the Kickstarter is really a way of letting us know, like, do you want more of this game? Are you going to be happy with the core book and like 1 or 2 other things? We're really encouraging people to go check out the Kickstarter and all that. And hopefully you two enjoyed this character creation process, and all that is going to be in this book. And hopefully people will have a good time kind of walking through this process and making a bunch of heroes that they enjoy.
Cool. I know that it came out in the update, so I'm sure anyone who already has back got the same info, but one of the way that your stretch goals are set up is that when you unlock core books, those are still add-ons. They're just unlocked as an ability to add them on. So if anyone is already backed or thinking about backing and you want the core books, those additional ones, go ahead and change your pledge to cover those. So that will basically bump up your totals faster to get us to the next stretch goals faster. Right. You can do it in Pledge Manager after, but then it won't unlock any additional, or can't unlock any additional stretch goals if you do it now. So there's a question came in from Mind Wanderer B. So in the constructed method, do you just choose your die rolls? What if you only know what you want as your archetype? Do you work backwards and choose dice that could get you there?
So you note what dice you're using from step to step. So you, like when I said, you would roll a D12 and a D6 for the next step. You just know you have those dice, and then you pick whatever you want on the next chart. So even if the dice you have couldn't possibly get the entry you want on the next thing, you can still take it. So, if you just had a D12 and a D6, you could still take entry number 20 on the next chart. You would just have the D12 and the D6 to apply during that next step. So you can really kind of chunk it however you want. Like you can start by rolling and then at one point say, okay, I know what I want from now on, and just start selecting. As long as you follow the same process, it'll still create characters, it won't break down that way.
Right. So the like in lay terms, if you're accustomed to the book, you can sort of just build anything you can take from each category. And it even sounds like from what you said that you can, if there's something you don't like, there's an opportunity to change that in the, at the end of a session or at the end of an issue.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Even as part of character creation, if you get to the end or like, man, I wish these 2 dice were swapped, or like I took a principle from this category but it doesn't make any sense. You do get one, what we call retcon, that allows you to make like one more tweak at the end. And, if your GM's fine with it, you can do several of those because they're designed not to really add much to the character power level wise, just let you customize it at the end to be something you're happy with.
Right. And the idea of the character metamorphosis has been, in comic books since the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Very, very cool. So thank you, Dave, so much for joining us. Thank you for putting together with your team this awesome game. I am absolutely looking forward to playing it. In fact, because I do have that starter kit, I might actually run, because I read through it today to get ready for this, and I kind of understand, I think I understand how the rules work. So now I'm ready to run it. But I'm really excited about it. Congratulations on the success you already have. Hopefully we'll be able to unlock even more stretch goals and get some more cool stuff out there. So one more time, where can people find you?
So for me personally, I am at Dave the Game, and I run Critical-Hits, which is at Critical-Hits. Sentinels, and this is all on Twitter. Sentinels RPG on Twitter will be all the Sentinel specific updates. The Kickstarter itself, you can go on and search up. And greaterthangames.com are the people who make all of the Sentinels of the Multiverse stuff, who we've partnered with on this, and they'll have links to everything Sentinels there as well.
Very
and
cool.
you guys know how to Google stuff. Just Sentinels RPG, Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Click buttons.
I'll try to put as many links of those as I can in the show notes to make it easy. Michael, where can people find you if they want to get more information about you on the internet?
They can't. My stealth is too high, or your perception is too bad. One of the two. But if you want to reach me on Twitter, you can get me at VerJaeger1. It's VerJaeger, and like I said, it's really stealthy. That's why it's hard to spell.
It is very difficult. And I'm at the RPG Academy. Pretty much anywhere you go, if you search for that, you're going to find something, and it'll be me. If you ever find someone else using that, let me know, because we got a problem. I got to go talk to somebody. But thank you, Dave, for joining us. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for all the people in chat. I love it when people are in chat and talk to us. It always makes the streams go so much better. And again, this will be archived on YouTube, and there'll be an audio-only version coming out probably in the next week or so. So with that, we'll just do an awkward wave out and say goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye.